go over some things for the final that we would have on the 18th, if that's okay with everybody. I don't want to waiting in case we
Go
run
for
out.
it. Going.
Okay, run out of time and hit us from there. So I do have screen share to go through the things for this portion. And how I'm going to break it up is I think it's probably worth noting that everybody has a good idea, and most of you do. You've been involved for a while as far as the restricted funds, of how the funds come in for those, of the way that their funding is and why they're different than the general fund of what we do. But I think it's important that we go through them. I'm going to, towards the end, kind of lump in when you get down to the end of the enterprise funds, when you're talking water, wastewater, and the streets, because they're all kind of all tied together when we start looking at capitals and what those projects are that we're looking to get out as we go on into the year here. So I will see if I can figure out this to do well. Okay. I'm going to do it. It's the same thing I've given you, but these are just more in a summary form of looking through the projecteds and where we're at. Starting through these. This one got a little confusing because it does has the economic development. This is the Downtown Development Authority, which has its own. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not giving you all the fund balance totals until next week because that gives us another week to work on some more numbers that I think are getting closer to being right to fruition as to where they're going to be. And I'll let Curtis speak to that here in a little bit as to where those are getting from here. But you're looking at projecting out from the revenue standpoint and from the expense standpoint with the DDA of being able to put away about 9,400 in the end. Oops, as far as what we're bringing in. Oh, Matthew. Let me get back to where I was. Somehow it took me there. I stop the share, go back into the share and see if it gets me in a better spot. There. We're all learning as we go along through here. Looking at these, not too much of a change. This is one I know, and for those of you that are on the DDA, Greg, I know you're on it, of looking into how do we best partner some of these things going forward when we start talking parking lots and some of the other things when we look at fund balance and making sure of how we're able to get those things in a better place as we move forward from there. But yeah, that's what happened there from that one.
Just a technical question. Why did the revenue move from real property to personal property? Line item.
I tried to get a lot of these into the areas as to where they've been in the past, to be honest, going back to 17, 18, 16, 17, to see where they had been classified then as we continue. And I'll verify that one, Greg, too, to make sure of where it's at.
I doubt there's any personal property or very
right. It should be real property. And that may be, I just put in the wrong line item too, is where we started it. So I'll check that and make sure from there.
The real property is paid by the person who owns the building, and the personal property is usually paid by the occupant of the building. So the people who are actually running the businesses are going to be paying personal property tax.
Right, but with all the exemptions from personal property, there really isn't much tax.
There isn't much of that at all anymore.
Downtown especially.
Okay. Been a while since I was in that position, so okay.
Yeah, I would say this is a reclass of just putting it back up into the personal property.
Okay, it's not a big deal. Just
right.
Yeah.
Make a note of it. Because I think it is on the wrong line.
Yep, I think it's just on the wrong line from there. So thank you for that. And to get here, library funding. If you look through all of there's a couple different revenue lines here that you'll get to that we go through. Really, and I've put revenues in blue, so they're a little harder. They stick out a little bit more, so we don't miss them. And generally, Curtis has been able to go through and really look at and get some contacts with the state to make sure of where monies are coming from. I think we're going to have a better idea of what revenues truly are as we move forward. We should be a lot closer on with those this year. 499,000, nearly 500,000. Coming in through their normals as we get through, and then the debt service money that comes out of the other taxes from the county. It gives us about $789,000 total. If you go through, looking through all the different line items, including depreciation and the debt service back, at least what we're showing right now to start with is in the final column is what we want to look at is about 38,000 that we would be taking out of the library fund balance for this year. Now that does take into account a change in the revenue that's been coming from the city that I think we probably should have a talk about as opposed to when we get to the last day. I know last year we took 175,000 that we had been giving out. As you guys stated last year, that really has to do with this was supposed to be something that was leveling off over time. It never changed. It never changed. I think the amount put in here.
When we passed the millage, we were supposed to take our local contribution away because the millage, county millage, more than made up for what we'd been contributing.
What we're supposed to do.
And if you look at what other libraries are spending, I mean, our library expense is 3 times what St. Louis is.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that we've got a better library, and I'm very much in favor of libraries, but I do have to question, that large of an expense there.
Okay.
And Matt, does that real property tax on the top, is that general fund money, or where is that coming from?
I got to grab my breakdown. We have a number of different pools. Kathy, if you're on here too, if you can help with the different pools that the monies come from within these.
Because there's the voted property tax distribution. I assume that's the county money?
There's 2 different separate ones. Yeah, that's the lower line.
The second line.
Down, yeah. Which is the larger.
Yeah.
Matt, if you'd like me to jump in on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The voted property tax, so the second line down, the 403, that is what comes from the county. That is labeled on the taxes as PA 164 on people's taxes. And then there's also a PA 164 Alma that completely stays with us. And that would be the real property and the personal property, the first and third lines up here. And then there's a third amount that's the actual debt that's down in the debt services column that is, I think it's called like library debt on people's taxes. So there's really 3 components of library taxes that go out.
I'm sorry, Curtis, where's that third one? You said there's the PA 164s.
Yep. So the PA 164 Alma is the first and third, the first and third lines up on the 510, 790, 402 and 510, 790, 410. And then the part that goes to the county that then the county then in turn splits back out to the people as the 403, the voted property tax distribution. And then the actual debt service is down in the 510, 905 column.
Okay, I guess mine doesn't have those line items, so I'm going to have to go back.
You look right here, Greg. First line, third line, middle of the second line is actually the 403 is the county.
403. Yeah, I've got that. I got the top 3 lines. I'm looking for the other one.
Down here, debt service.
Oh, so that's not in your total revenue then?
From there, down from there. Not in that first line. Then it's the debt service is in its own secondary portion down here. Added into the very total revenue at the end.
So the PA 164, we have a dedicated millage just for library operations in addition to our debt service millage? That is true?
That's the one, yes.
And then you're still proposing a $75,000 out of general fund on top of all that?
I had taken that as from the 175, that was part of the discussion last year, but obviously that's up to discussion for you guys.
I guess I'm against it. I think there's other places where we need to fund right now. Any other thoughts? Anybody else? I mean, I'm not against the library, but I just think there's higher priorities out of the general fund and another 75,000 on top of what we're already pouring into that operation. I think, at some point you just got to tighten your belt there.
Matt, is that people we're paying for? Is that the activities they're doing? What, like, or is it just supply money? What?
It's
Little bit of everything.
a little
It's
bit of everything.
operational,
Yeah.
right? All the operations,
Yeah, it's all the operations.
because the debt is totally separate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I see where you're coming from, Greg, but I also struggle a little bit because we definitely can't compare ourselves to other libraries in the county. I mean, what Elma does is, and I know this because I work with kids in the community. I mean, we go so above and beyond, with the activities and just everything they're doing. So I don't know. I guess I struggle with cutting their budget at all because it's.
No, and I get it, Audra. I think what we really need to be doing, or what our library staff needs to be tasked with, is getting a bigger share of that county budget, because I think a lot of those services that you just talked about that we provide for especially the younger population, a lot of that is being drawn from other areas that are getting the money and not providing any service for it, not providing the service that we are. At least I think we deserve, for the programming we're putting forth, a larger share of that.
You are right. I'd be curious if it would be possible for the library staff, when they do like the make and take craft kits and when they do some of the different programs and stuff, if they could track where kids are coming from, because I think it probably is very much countywide.
Yeah, I know it's just anecdotal evidence, but I've had a number of people from the other districts tell me they come here, they bring their daycare here, they bring their families here because. And it's great. It's wonderful, but why are we paying for it all? I think because of what we're offering, somehow that formula needs to be changed, and we need a bigger share of it to fund some of those things for those folks.
Yeah,
Dean has at least 4 buses a week that are bringing kids to the library for an hour at a time. And those kids are coming from all over Gratiot County to spend time at our library.
There you go. Again, it's anecdotal, but
Right.
Well, and how does it change from, I mean, I know a couple, 10 plus years ago when I was working in Ithaca, if somebody came from outside of the city of Ithaca, they had to pay a fee. Are we still doing that? Or now that we're part of the county-wide, is it?
we never did that, I don't believe. And now that we're county-wide, nobody's doing it, I don't believe. Is that true, Matt?
That's, yeah, to my knowledge, there is nothing like that now that it is a countywide. And Greg, I'm real curious as to what the basis is. How is it just a matter of, and forgive my ignorance, a matter of when we sit down to discuss this, that there is a way that we talk on a county level of these funding sources as to where they're going, because who's offering what?
Is the formula based on simply the size of people geographically, or the population geographically? Is it based on?
So, but I really don't.
But shouldn't it be changed to include program? If you're going to do, not all, like St. Louis or some of these small libraries may not have the staffing to offer programs, which is fine. But if Alan's picking that up, then there should be support for that. I mean, it's got to be probably a combination of size of community and program offerings.
It needs to be in the formula there somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's per capita is what they're using for the formula. So, and we do, there is a non-resident fee, but it's outside of Gratiot County. We have never charged a non-resident fee for residents in Gratiot County.
And that may have been what it was in Ithaca too, Lori, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, do you folks meet as the county ever? Is there any, as we go through this?
The millage is coming up for renewal again for next year. So there was a Gratiot County Libraries Board that met quite often, but then COVID kind of stopped that. And that was before I was stepped in as director. So I'm not sure exactly, what happens during those meetings, but I know that they're going to begin meeting again because we are going to start preparing for, the upcoming millage next year to make sure that we get every effort to get it passed. So I haven't experienced one yet, but I know that they should start meeting again here very soon.
Because I think those discussions need to be opened, and I'm not sure how, I don't know enough about the formula, to be honest, that we'd have to look, but I do think, like I said, it's just per capita as to where it comes from. But I guarantee you, we're offering more programming.
Right, and I know
What's
that there's
what's
a
the
benefit.
basis of per capita too? I mean, is it school district or, because once you get outside the city limits, where are the line, who draws the lines and where are they? What is it? You know, I mean, that's a whole nother question there.
Right.
Well, and there was a benefit to the millage to being countywide, but if we're above and beyond providing the services, then that needs to be taken into account, I think, like Greg was saying, as far as what the portion that we're getting. I mean, it's similar to the parks thing, you know, where the other parks are getting money countywide or whatever, and we aren't getting any. I mean, there needs to be some configuration, I suppose, for the fact that we are a bigger library and able to provide and have been providing more services. But I don't know the answer.
Lori, are you
Yeah.
guys either formally or informally tracking numbers served, whether it's the make or take, you know, picking up a craft kit or story hour or anything like that? Are you guys?
We do track, you know, how many kits get picked up. It's not necessarily where the people are coming from, but how many kits were produced and picked up, how many virtual story programs. I left those I do actually have some current stats for those on my desk at work. I did not bring them with me. I'm actually at home right now, but I'd be glad to provide them anytime.
The only reason I'm asking is because it's kind of the same thing when we started talking about transportation throughout the county. You know, we kind of started tracking where, you know, things were kind of happening. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be some discussion here down the road about that county millage, you know, maybe we should make sure we're tracking those things so we have some
Data to back up what we want to say.
I'm just, you know, can't hurt to have.
No, actually, and I'm trying to think, we can certainly track how many we're making and how many are getting picked up. Where they're, you know, who the people are exactly who are picking them up. I'm not exactly certain how we'd be able to, you know, specify that. But, and we do already have the numbers for how many are being used, how many we're putting together, how many people are watching the programs, attending the virtual programs, the live views, the recorded views. We're doing we're being pretty specific on those. But like I said, I'm not sure, you know, that somebody in, you know, there's 10,000 people in St. Louis watching, or 5,000 from Ithaca came and got some bags, that type of thing, you know.
Right.
I wish I could.
A note too, guys, that I should make sure to point out is in the library maintenance portion too, you're looking at a $30,000 of that is a CIP for new boiler, but that's also money for upkeep and things like that keep coming up. So,
and we're
Talk
also
about that too. Why does that thing need a boiler already?
I mean, that's a maintenance question I'll have to ask from there. So
I was told it has a crack in it.
All right, the boiler question, I can answer that one. That building is now 2007. We're now 14 years old, and that thing was off of its warranty point at 10 years old. It's kind of common with furnaces. Lori's right. That one did have a crack in it. We just noticed that 3 weeks ago. It's been a CIP that we've been looking at putting on there. The time has come now. There's no fixing it. So that's now time for routine maintenance and upkeep on those types of things over there. And Lori's right. There's also some concerns with the radiant floor heating around. There's some heating lines around there. We believe there's a leak in one of those, and that money is also to try to track and repair that.
I'm just disappointed that, you know, after that, it didn't last longer than that.
I don't know how you've got me, Greg, because I don't know how long they'll say. Yeah, you would think that's not the longest life for something of that large size. So I'm making notes just so you know I have everything here too. So then when we come back in the session next week as to what we'll need to discuss to finalize from there. But I know we're on a tighter one tonight.
Matt, I guess I would ask you to, you know, challenged Lori and the team over at the library to go after the county and, present all the programming that they're doing. And, I don't know for sure, maybe everybody else is doing it too, but we should certainly go into those meetings prepared with everything that we're doing. My feeling is we do a lot more than everybody else, and that we're doing it for a lot of other people besides our own little taxpayer group. If that is indeed the case, I think we deserve more of the pie that's getting split up amongst the group. If it's not the case, then I'm wrong, and I just assume know that as well.
Sure. Good job. We'll step into that. Point taken. Thank you. We will do that. We will make note of that one and do that. We'll have to figure out how some of those things worked and as to how do you look at these different formulas that we have and how they come to the final numbers for some of these that come through. I'm going to make the notes move to the next year, as in I know we're under a gun tonight with a little bit of less time, but this is transit. These are the ones that have been, this has already been sent to the state of Michigan, approved through there, where you're looking at estimated revenues 1.361. I want to make a note because if you're going to look back at activities, you're going to say, well, my gosh, how are we taking on an expansion? And yet we had already spent 1.2 or 1.3 in the 18, 19, 19, 20. I did highlight up there in the yellow. What those are the capital projects of new buses. So that skewed those numbers a little bit. I want to make sure what you were looking at, you're seeing that doesn't give you something a little bit different there. And that is required to come in even from the state as to where we go from that at that same number of what we're looking at of 1.319. So a little bit difference in there, and it's broken down by operations, which is your drivers and all the operational portion of that, dispatchers who actually do the dispatching and all the center through dispatching. RTAP is the training monies that come through. System maintenance then is what you would call the mechanic, and they're looking to hire a secondary mechanic to be a part-time driver as the expansion has gone. And then the administration, which has only been one person in the past, but which will now take on formally into that the position we had talked about splitting in the accounting services and some in human resources also that will be split into there, and then the depreciation on everything else from there. And the most difficult thing with this is, again, as we talked about, is the differences in timing between when this is due to the state and then when we have to do it. So everything's quartered off and different things like that. But these are the numbers that have been approved by the state.
So is there no anticipated new buses then? I mean, you got those 2 lines for buses.
Fleet's completely new within the last, the fleet is completely new in the last year.
So with all this expansion, we don't have to add any buses.
Go ahead,
I can
Brett.
answer that, Matt. What we did, Greg, is we didn't dispose of our old buses that were still serviceable when we got the new ones. So we're up to 18 buses currently. So yeah, we can operate without getting any new. We actually do have 1 new bus coming and another van because they're replacing 2 of our old vans. So we should be all set equipment wise.
It sounds like we've already bought most of the equipment we need then.
Correct. Yep.
Well before anybody else is contributing, I might add. Thank you.
Well, it's all state and federal funds.
Not all of it.
Okay.
I have a question down a little bit on what line is it? The 714, the fringe benefits. How did we go from 72,000 up to 167,500? That's a $95,000 increase.
One's expansion, Michelle, with more people from there, and it might be just a determination. What we did this year was looked at basically 30% cost for those numbers, as opposed to trying to guess at anything even further in there.
Okay,
So,
but what are the fringe benefits? Does that actually go into salary then? Like people get a certain raise? Or because if you're taking money, if you're taking jobs away and you're giving it to human resources in a county, that's going to free up time. So we're not going to need to add people out there for more salary. I guess I'm confused why it went 95,000. That's a lot of money.
Those fringe numbers go, it would be whatever percentage of time that we're putting in for either the accounting type position or the HR. Those fringe numbers that they have are also split out and included there. That's part of that.
But I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. If it's in the budget, if it's in the budget for the fringe and the transit, but we're taking duties away from the transit department to go into the budget for the finance department and human resources department, why are we increasing so much in the transit department?
It's the transit.
If you look too, look at the salaries line above that. It's going from 448 to 392. Salaries going down and benefits are.
Yeah, but that's still not $95,000. It's 50.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that something screwed up with the numbers there, I think.
Yeah. So I wanted to visit that, but we have to go to our other meetings. So I would like clarification on
I'll make note on that. Thank you.
Okay,
We'll make note and look through that. I don't know why that would be that way, because that shouldn't be the number there.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to go back and start at transit because I feel like we're rushed when we only had like 8 minutes to go through it, and we spent good 20 minutes on the library.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yep.
State Street Plaza continues with the very limited amount that's brought in through the rents. I would say that the expense numbers that are in here are probably, probably will not reach that this year. There's been less and less out there as none of the buildings are taken care of as much. We don't have all the tenants in the backside buildings anymore, but we kept those in there for the possibility of having to look through those and looking through that fund.
I still think we need to sell that.
I think it's,
Agreed.
I think, yeah.
Have we ever talked to the post office about buying it? Because they could use that for their distribution center, maybe, because they're getting so much, it's quite congested over there in that parking lot. So maybe, I mean, I know we're working with the US government trying to get them to spend money to buy a building, but maybe we can look at that.
Not a bad idea. I think it would be nice to have somebody else have that building. It sucks money, no
Being a
doubt,
taxpayer would be good.
from there.
Yeah,
So look.
that's true.
Not a lot of change in refuse. We are, David, correct me, 1 more year, 2 more years on this contract with this company, with Republic.
Correct. Yes, 2 more.
Yeah, that I think we will open up to definitely take a look at where we're at and be bringing that, because it's time to maybe look really hard at that and see where we need to go with that. And then I'm going to have, it's easiest when we tie in water, wastewater together. If we look at the different projects that we have going, some of these are holdovers and that, but I'll have David go ahead and touch on just the different projects that we have coming through these funds.
Hello. These are continuations. Some of them are from years past that have moved up into this year. You'll notice a new one near the top, North State Street water main. That project has come about because of the hotel being proposed downtown, looking at having to put a new water main down State Street between Center and Superior Street. That water line is not producing enough water for their fire suppression. And so we've got some money budgeted in there to put a 12-inch water main on that. Undecided if we're going to go the full route or halfway, still working with the developer on that to find out if there's any kind of a cost sharing we can do on that. So that's a new one. The meter replacement program, you see that large number. We've typically scheduled for around $20,000 a year for meter replacements. but this is a capital replacement. Our water meters are well over 20 years old. They are well past their life expectancy. And we've been talking about this for a number of years, and we've done a lot of homework in the last actually 2 years. Last year, we started those discussions, and Matt can bring you up to speed on a few of those, but then COVID hit, and it was very difficult to continue those conversations. And then we didn't know we were going to be financially as far as water usage and wastewater treatment, things like that. So last year, there really wasn't a good way to move forward with it. This year, we are needing to move forward with it. Like I said, the meters are aging. Their accuracy is going to be in question. So instead of biting it in one large chunk, I'm looking at trying to write this into quarterly chunks with the idea that when they do go bad in the future, when they will, between another 10 to 15 years, that we won't have to buy them all at once. You can phase them in quarterly, or it may even take 5 years to do all of the meters, but you won't take it in one large, massive chunk. Elevated tank repainting. This project has been on the books for the last couple of years. This comes in on this year, and this year it definitely needs to be done. This will be a big year in that elevated tank needs to have its paint totally stripped. It cannot be painted over anymore. So that'll have to be tarped off, and that's going to be quite an undertaking to get that done for this next fiscal year. Same thing that goes along with that, cathodic protection for the elevated tank. Just makes sense to do that at the same time that we're painting it to try to make that last longer. Pine Avenue Water Project, that's still scheduled for next year, depending on where MDOT funds are going to be. Water main interconnects, we have some abandonments that come up, and obviously the bigger ones for the related to CIP project are the Harvard Avenue reconstruction and Richmond Street reconstruction, the water main replacements on those streets.
And those tie in here also with the wastewater, David.
Yes, the water meters will be split 50-50 between wastewater and water distribution. I forgot to mention that on the last slide, but that cost is shared by both of those entities. This is the north of Washington Avenue sanitary sewer. We were projecting to do that this last fiscal year. A number of things have come up that timing could not do that. Looking at definitely getting that going this year, this upcoming fiscal year. Looking to talk with Pine River Township about the purchase of a generator for their lift stations to try to help keep them running in the event of a power outage, take less demand off of our generators, also give them a little more peace of mind with that. Lift station roofs, you'll see I bumped that number up this year. When we looked more in depth into that, the idea was to put a roof over top of the existing failing concrete roofs. That's still the plan, but there's two roofs that when I talked with the engineers on it, they're not too sure if those concrete decks are going to hold up. So we came up with a worst case scenario for each one of those. Definitely don't look to be spending anywhere near that amount. But in case that happens when we do go forward with that project, we want to make sure there's enough money into that. So you'll notice that's different from last year. Another one this year is disinfection conversion, looking at trying to get off the chlorine that we use for treatment over at the wastewater plant. Last year, you remember us talking about that during the SAW grant, looking at the possibility of UV disinfection or bleach. We're still going back and forth on the two different ones. I know the way that we would like to go, trying to explore those options. That 850 is definitely a little bit inflated on that, but I don't know exactly what's going to come in with that. And it's also going to depend on some of these other funds that you'll hear Matt talk about later tonight. Those might be that might be an option to leverage some of those funds. Influent pump rigging, that was a project last year we were going to do. It's carried over to this year, and then obviously the street projects.
If I could, like that disinfection conversion, is that a GAWA project?
No, that's wastewater. We had, well, you were partially right in that a couple of years ago when we went with, when it became GAWA, we updated the plan over there. We got off chlorine disinfection over there and updated, they use bleach disinfection. So the GAWA plant has already been converted.
Okay, so that one already got done.
Correct.
That's the one I was thinking of. Thank you.
Yep.
That ties those in here from tonight. So if we made notes of some of the other stuff that we have for the next meeting, which will be next Tuesday night, to do that. And we'll send, you have all of the numbers here that we can send out and get through But obviously that will be a major night to have those discussions and those things. And anything that you have, Michelle, if anything more, any of that, let me know, and we'll get all of those so that we have those answers and be able to discuss that at that point in time. But I know we've got to move on to the next meeting tonight too, so.
Okay, are we ready to move forward with our regular meeting?